Hi, I'm Ed.
I'm Barb, and we're Carp Family Adventures.
So we're changing it again.
Did I do it okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay, good.
So today is the big day of our cruise when we actually went through the Panama Canal. So it was day 12 of the cruise on Wednesday, May 28th.
Coming to an end.
Yeah, the cruise is almost over, but this was the main part of the cruise, was going through the canal. So we were told that we would go under, there are 3 bridges over the Panama Canal. The first one from the Pacific side is the Bridge of the Americas. So we were told the day before that we would be going under that bridge at 6:30 and then enter the first canal locks at 7:15. So we got up around 5:45. I set the alarm for 5:30, but then we waited a little.
Yeah.
But we got up before 6. So I did want to get at least some of the locks from the front deck of the Island Princess, because we knew from last time we were on this ship that on decks 11 and 10 out front, there's a little area where passengers can go and see from the front of the ship. So I did get most of the footage of the first locks from the front of the ship out on deck. So we did end up sailing under the Bridge of the Americas at just about 6:30.
Yeah.
Because they do keep everybody on a tight time schedule, all the ships.
Yeah, I mean, that's why it was good, because they gave us the itinerary of like different hours and where we're supposed to be, and it was good. It was dead on.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, they kept to their time schedule.
They kind of had to.
Yeah, they have to.
What do you do once you get in a lock?
Right,
You
can't back up all the traffic. Yeah, the lock you can't. You could sit in the lock.
Yeah, that's true. So
we were, a lot of things I didn't know about the Panama Canal before, what the experience would be like, until we heard things and we heard the destination, the port talk.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not aware, it does take 8 to 12 hours to get through the entire canal, to get from one ocean to the other ocean. Ours took about 8 hours.
Yeah,
so
about 8.
We were pretty quick. And also another thing is that the Panama Canal is mostly a lake, right? It's Gatun Lake, which was an artificial man-made lake that they made by damming up a river. And I'll put a map on too, because it's interesting. But most of the actual space is a lake that is 85 feet above sea level. So the issue of getting ships across is that they have to be raised 85 feet to the lake so they can sail across the lake, and then they have to be lowered 85 feet again on the other side to get out to the ocean.
Yeah.
So, so there are various sets of locks, and we on the Island Princess, we're lucky that we're sailing through the old locks.
That's how I was going to say. Yeah, the old locks. It's good. No, go for it. I was just to say, make sure we tell them which locks we're going through. Yeah,
because the old locks, which were originally built between 1904 and 1914 when the canal opened, have been there since then. The new locks were opened in 2016.
Yeah, it's not too long ago. And they had to do that for the bigger ships.
Yeah, ships kept getting bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But it is also interesting too that Princess Cruises, the first cruise ships to go through the Panama Canal in 1967 were Princess. It was the Princess Italia. And also, so ships now that are the largest size that can go through the old locks are called Panamax. So they're the maximum size to go through Panama on the old locks.
Oh, that's right.
The Island Princess and the Coral Princess are the 2 Panamax ships that Princess sails. So they're the only ones that can go through the old locks. The new locks, the ships that are the maximum size to go through the new locks, are called Neo-Panamax. And actually the first Neo-Panamax ship to go through the Panama Canal was the Caribbean Princess.
Okay.
Even though a Disney cruise ship had actually gone through those locks before, but it wasn't as big as the Caribbean Princess. So that was the first Neo-Panamax cruise ship to go through. So Princess has been doing it for a long time. So the first gates we got to were the Miraflores locks, which is the ones that we took the tour of the previous day.
Yeah,
so we saw them earlier, and then we sailed into them. The Miraflores locks, we got there at 7:15.
Yeah.
This has 2 chambers. So both the first chamber and then the second chamber raises us up about 55 feet. So we're like almost there, but not all the way there. So I don't know. I mean, I have a lot of video of us going through the locks, so I don't know what.
Well, it's good. They can take a look at it
Yeah,
and see it.
you
And,
can watch it from the front.
and we're also trying to get the ship did time lapse. So we're trying to get a copy of that. They said there's a way to do it. We're going to try to get that and add it to the video.
Right.
And that was pretty amazing just to see what how I can't remember. A couple passengers also did it, and they were saying, you know, how it wasn't very long, obviously, because they sped it up. So it's pretty neat to see, you know, the time, how long it really took to.
The whole transit 8 hours, but they'll speed it up to a couple minutes.
But it is neat to see the difference with the doors on the old locks as opposed to the new locks. So
they're totally different. Yeah. So as we got into the first chamber, the first thing that happens is people in a rowboat come out and they throw a line to the ship so that they can attach the cables, which are also attached to the mules, which are electric tractors, basically.
And you'll see in the video there's the little silver cars on the side.
Yeah, and you could see them waiting in line to attach themselves to us with the cables. And the point of the cables is not to pull the ship, it's to keep the ship in the center of the canal so it doesn't hit either side.
And how they communicate with the bridge, right? Is a captain comes on, he's the only one that's allowed to talk.
Pilot, right?
The pilot, sorry. Well, the pilot, captain, pilot. And he's the only one that's allowed to talk, and the way that the mules communicate is they ring a bell. And that was pretty neat too.
Yeah. So after we got through the first chamber, we went into the second chamber, and I went back to the back of the ship, because on deck 8 of the Island Princess also there's a viewing area on deck 8. So you can see the back of the ship. That was pretty crowded, but I got to see the doors closing behind us. So the doors would close behind us, and then they would pump the water. Or really, they don't use electric pumps. They just open a valve, and the water from the lake rushes in and lifts the ship.
I know, it's just pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing that they do it with the only things that really use electricity are the mules, are powered by electricity, and the motors that open and close the gates are electric. But they're only like 25 horsepower, even though the gates are however many tons.
Yeah, wasn't
heavy.
he saying something like it was like a lawnmower we use?
Yeah. So, I mean, everything is computerized now, the timing and stuff. But back in 1914, they could still run it with a minimum of electricity.
Yeah, and then they would hand do I thought they also said they would hand open, like somebody would actually crank it and open the...
Originally,
originally.
Exactly, yeah, so it is pretty amazing. Yeah. So that was the second part of the Miraflores locks, and then we sailed not very far, right? The next set of the next lock was pretty close, I think, right? The Pedro Miguel lock.
Was it that one? Yeah.
So that was the one. So we'd gone up about 55 feet, I think. And then the Pedro Miguel lock is the next lock. It's only one chamber, and it raises you the rest of the 30 feet or so to the height of the lake. So this one was fun because we watched this one from inside.
Oh, that's right.
And so we watched it from both, I think, deck 7, where you could go out on the promenade deck, and also from deck 6, which was below the level of the
And it was nice because it was air conditioned.
Yeah.
We did it. We went over right by where the Explorers Lounge because they have seats and big windows, and nobody was there.
Yeah, we thought people would be there to see us
for sure
raising up from where we were basically
crazy.
Underground to the level with the locks, but nobody was there.
No. We even got a picture of. You said, "Wait, look, there's like a ladder type thing built in."
Yeah.
We were able to get a picture of that. That was pretty neat too.
Yeah, they do both. Yeah, they have to service everything, I guess, so they have a lot of access points. But yeah, it was really interesting because you hear how close the ship is to the edges, because as a Panamax ship, so the canal width is 115 feet, I think, right?
I don't remember.
And the Panamax ship is 110 feet wide. I think that's what. Anyway, if those numbers are off, the difference isn't, because it's 5 feet, 2.5 feet on either side is all the distance there is between the edge of the ship and the edge of the gate.
I didn't hear any scraping or anything.
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see when we get into port, like our next port, when we could actually, in Aruba, we look up, say, oh, let's see, did we have, are they repainting the sides, or whatever.
Yeah, we could Photoshop in scrapes or something just to,
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, it was neat. You hear how close it is, and it is very close, and that's why they definitely need those mules to keep. They tighten and then they slack those cables so that the ship does. And you can feel and see the ship moving a little bit left and right.
Yeah, we pointed it out that when we were up on deck, you could see it moving. I was like, oh, that's getting a little close.
Yeah.
And then it would back away.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, then on the other side, so it's pretty neat just to see that.
Yeah. So that was the Pedro Miguel lock. So then we were at the level of Gatun Lake, which is, there's more than just a lake. There's a whole channel for us to get into the lake. And that's called the Culebra Cut, which was the most difficult part of building the canal. They had to take down, it was a 300-foot mountain basically, and they had to dig through it. And then they did that before they flooded, because remember, it's a man-made lake. So before they flooded it, they had to dig out this trench between the Pacific side and the Atlantic side. So that's what we were sailing on, that big cut. And another thing in that area is the bridge, the Centennial Bridge, which I think opened in like 2004. It was maybe the centennial of the starting, when the Americans started the canal, because the French had started earlier than that and had actually done quite a lot of the excavation of that cut, but hadn't finished it. So so we went through we went under the Centennial Bridge, went through the Culebra Cut, and you can see like the stair-step terraces of where they had to cut through the mountain. Yeah,
see, it's covered. Well, it's with a lot of greenery.
Yeah,
it rains so much.
because it's a jungle.
And you can just see the way that it looks like stairs, kind of.
Right, and they have like facilities and stuff there to maintain that, so there aren't mudslides and things like that. And then after that, so basically after that, there wasn't too much to see because we would just be sailing along the lake for several hours until we got to the locks that would take us down to the Atlantic. Yeah. But you did play the coin pusher again, so we were really close to getting the bonus.
I mean, I didn't want to put any more money in, but it was fun. People came and we were watching.
You did the bonus game again.
Yeah, I got the bonus game again, but I should have pushed it, but that's okay. Like, gone to the next one, but it was fun.
That's okay.
Yeah, something different,
So then we were sailing on Gatun Lake. Yeah. We went to the buffet for lunch, and it was really crowded because I guess that's when people eat, is between the locks.
Yeah, and then also it looked like people in the front of, because the buffet on the ship is at the front, and they have the big windows in front. So it looked like people almost looked like people had moved the tables.
Yeah.
And
to look out the front.
And had like rows of chairs just to look out the front.
Yeah.
So it was really difficult to get a seat.
Yeah.
But we eventually did, so that worked out.
Yeah. So we went across the lake. The end of the lake is the Gatun locks, which are 3 locks that take us down the 85 feet into the Atlantic sea level. And another thing they tell you is that the sea level, so the Pacific has tides that vary widely, but the Atlantic has very minimal tides. So that's the sea level is an approximation. So sea level changes between the Atlantic and the Pacific during the day and everything.
Yeah.
And so that's why one reason the gates and locks are necessary, because even the oceans are really average at different heights on different days. And another thing was interesting too, that I thought we were following a ship that was bigger, much bigger than us, a cargo ship that went to the new locks. So as we were coming in, it went off to the left and we went off to the right. So the Miraflores locks are on the right, and the new locks, I can't remember, Agua Clara or something, were off to the left, and it sailed through there. And then by the time we got to the Gatun locks, the new locks are on the right, and the old locks are on the left. So the ships, there are a lot of ships in the lake, and there's a lot of space to pass. So they actually crisscrossed their paths so that we ended up on the other side of the ship there. So that was interesting.
That's pretty neat. But also, if you haven't been on the cruise yet to see the Panama Canal, just remember not to stay on one side.
Yeah.
When you're viewing the locks, make sure you go to both sides throughout the day. Go back and forth, back and forth. And again, also if you can go in the front or in the back.
And the front and the back,
because you see different things on both sides.
Definitely.
So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, so like when we got into the Gatun locks, the first of those locks, we were lucky enough to see a tanker ship on the other side coming in the other direction.
That was pretty cool.
We hadn't heard that they would do that. Like, we thought that, well, the ships would go one direction in the morning and then be in the middle and then leave. But anyway, this ship was coming in the afternoon, like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, through the old locks, because they're pairs of locks, right? So they're right next to us, basically. So we have a lot of footage of this tanker ship coming in and getting raised up to the level of the lake, while we were getting lowered down to the level of the Atlantic.
That was amazing.
It was nice to see.
And we were able to FaceTime our kids and a couple friends or whatever. So that was kind of neat for them to see it. That was good.
Yeah. So we went through those locks, the last set of locks, down to sea level of the Atlantic. And then it didn't take long to go through the third bridge, under the third bridge, which is just called the Atlantic Bridge. And it's the newest of the bridges, only a few years old. And then we were sailing out into the Atlantic Ocean.
It seemed like it went pretty fast.
But
it was very hot and humid, and the weather was.
Yeah,
and
being outside, and it was sunny too, which it wasn't raining.
Which we were lucky. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, I've got to run in right away, take a shower. I did go out, and then I would make sure I would come in and drink something and get cooled off by the air conditioning, and then go back out, because I just, I don't want to get heat stroke or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, and the other nice thing that Princess did along the decks, because I just thought, I didn't think that they would do that. They normally have their chairs on the deck 7, I guess it was. They also put folding chairs throughout the different, like on both sides of deck 7. That was nice.
They had water for you on the front deck.
They did. Okay.
Deck 14 or 15.
And I believe they were walking around also with the cold towels.
Oh yeah, that's right. They offered us frozen towels, I think. Yeah. That was nice. But then actually, once we got out into the Atlantic, we actually had to stop for a little while because they made the announcement there was a medical emergency. So someone had an emergency, and the medical team had to accompany them on a boat back to the mainland. So we had to wait for
a few
them.
hours.
Of course, we haven't heard what happened to that person. Hopefully they're okay.
Yeah, hopefully.
But the ship was waiting
for the medical team to come back.
Yeah, for the medical team to come back.
But that's another good plus with Princess. They stay with their with their people and make sure they're okay. And we don't even know. I mean, some of them could have stayed behind too, and some staff and some crew, I should say, I guess. But
but a couple hours later, then the ship was underway again, and they said there wouldn't be a delay to Aruba, which is our next port. Although the water did get choppy, we could feel it.
Well, we're like kind of moving.
Yeah, now it's.
But it's still not as bad. I mean.
No, we've been in much stronger seas than.
Yeah.
So after that, we had dinner. We went to trivia. It was flashback trivia was the first one, where they did some different questions from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s.
The first 5 questions, it was music from the 60s, I guess.
60s music, yeah.
60s, you had to guess the
and we didn't,
artist and the title.
We got more than half of them, but we didn't
we got
do that
6
great.
out of 10, I think. But the rest of
we
got all
except
for
the Danger
one.
Mouse question.
Yeah, Danger Mouse. We don't know. We didn't know the sidekick. I guess we should have, but don't remember anything.
And then the last part was the Survey It game show, which is just Family Feud.
That was funny.
It was kind of another one where it just kind of didn't go well, but it was funny. So
it did. Again, it's just fun to go to those. It's like you're just plane with a bunch of people.
Yeah, as long as
so-
we don't have to.
Well, yeah, and it was
contestants.
nice that they had a lot of sign-ups. And again,
Yeah,
they
they
used the
did.
fishbowl to pick out. And at first, so they had 3 on each side, and it was all women. And then one was swapped out for, I guess, her husband.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was
Yeah, so we watched that,
Yeah,
and then
that
we
was
came
good.
back. Yeah, and then we came back.
back to cabin.
Yeah.
And then we were pretty tired from the day we had.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was tiring. Even
Just-
though, yeah.
we didn't really do much, but we did in a sense.
Yeah, it was
hot. Yeah, the hot, being hot, and with the humidity, and the day before, and yeah.
Yeah, but it was fun. It was the first time we've been through the Panama Canal, so
I highly recommend this cruise to
yeah.
do the Panama Canal.
yeah, and if
have it.
possible, if you haven't done it, go through the old locks because they're
Definitely.
much more historical and they still look, I mean, still look great, and they work great.
And do the full transit.
It's more visually like interesting to see the old locks that people have told us. But yeah, full transit.
Yeah,
also.
full transit for
But
sure.
we might end up doing one through the new locks at some point.
Yeah,
That
I
would
think
be
so. I
interesting.
think it would be kind of neat to see that, and
Yeah.
then but try to, I guess, come at a different time.
Yeah, different time of year.
Yeah,
In the winter would be much better than in the summer. So.
yeah. And once again, when we were on our previous tour in Panama City, we were the last cruise ship again.
Right.
So,
yeah.
so we'll see what Aruba says. Oh, are you the?
Yeah.
Well, you're the last cruise ship of the season. So we'll see. I don't
Yeah.
know, but anyways.
Okay. I
Yeah.
guess that's it.
Yeah, enjoy our video and pictures of Panama Canal. We had a blast, and
Yeah.
again, thank you for following us, those that follow us, and tuning in to our videos. And
Yeah. Thanks,
we'll
everyone.
see you next time. Will be
Aruba.
Aruba.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Take
Thanks.
care. Bye.
Bye.